The fourth chapter of the book of James begins with a question. What causes fights and quarrels among you? Within the context of what he is talking about, James has an answer of sorts. Before we get into that, however, let's define what we mean by quarreling. By definition, a quarrel is about words. It is defined as a verbal conflict between individuals or groups, resulting from some disagreement or grievance. There is a fine line, which is often blurred in our thinking, between arguing and quarreling. Arguing is reasoning based on facts. Quarreling is wrangling angrily over personal preferences, using facts or not. Chances are that when it is happening, we are not aware of that difference, but it is an important one. You can win an argument based upon the facts, but you can't win a quarrel. Whenever the goal becomes to hurt someone and action begins to replace words as a form of communication, both people lose. So in general, it is best if arguments don't become quarrels and quarrels don't lead to fights. To achieve that goal, we need to understand that while there may be two sides to every argument, there really is only one side when it comes to bickering. Bickering is just another word for quarreling, but it's usually reserved for the trivial stuff. It's just that I believe when we are bickering, it is all about us, so it is always trivial. And that is pretty much the conclusion that James came to as well. What causes fights and quarrels among you, James asked? Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. Hidden within his argument are allusions to familiar Bible stories like Cain and Abel, and perhaps even David and Bathsheba, as well as references to the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, and thou shalt not covet anything that is thy neighbor's. James places the blame for all the quarreling that he has seen in the church firmly in the realm of being unfaithful to God. According to James, you alone are responsible for any quarrel you get into. As one scholar put it, the root of quarrelsomeness is covetousness. Covetousness is discontentment with Christ, a desire to be satisfied in something outside of him. According to James, our biggest quarrel is always with God. And if we weren't quarreling with God, then we probably wouldn't be quarreling with other people either. An argument becomes a quarrel whenever we stop treating others the way that we want to be treated. When it becomes all about winning the argument at any cost, then everyone loses no matter what happens. And all too often a relationship ends up then getting sacrificed upon the altar of our pride. In this jumble of words from James, there is here this nugget of truth. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. Which is to say, in all things, we should let God win the argument that is going on inside of us. Practically speaking, as one scholar said, ultimately quarreling is an attempt to control someone by fighting them with our words. When we quarrel, we are trying to force another person to agree with us and to make them change by brute force. Quarreling is foolish because it can never win another person's heart. We may end up getting our way, like bullies sometimes do, but quarreling ends up driving others away, causing resentment and damaging personal relationships. Psychologists offer this useful advice when you discover that an argument is becoming a quarrel. First, give each other some space. Don't worry about being right. Try to become a better listener. Be open about your feelings. Pause before you speak. Build healthy communication skills. Try to be empathetic. And if all else fails, try couples therapy. My own pastoral advice is to always make the relationship more important than winning the argument. Realize that in every argument, there are really 3 persons involved. There is you, there is them, and there is God. Let God win. That is simplistic, perhaps. But unless God wins every argument, everyone loses. And God only wins if we figure out how to love one another, even when we disagree with each other. Like James, Jesus also put our disagreements within the context of our faith when he said, if your brother or sister sins, in other words, does something, says something that is wrong, then go and point out their fault just between the 2 of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take 1 or 2 others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. The idea was community as the means to establish what really is right, with the idea and hope that a faithful community will always seek out the truth of the matter. Doing that still requires some humility, however, on the part of everyone, and a true desire to love one another. And therefore, sadly, the process doesn't always work, even in the church. Nevertheless, in the best of circumstances, it occasionally does, and therefore democracy works better than the alternative. Have I answered the question with which we began? I hope so. Take what you will from my own jumble of words. And let me end now with a poem by Eleanor Barjon, who lived in London from 1881 to 1965. It is entitled The Quarrel. I quarreled with my brother, I don't know what about. One thing led to another, and somehow we fell out. The start of it was slight, the end of it was strong. He said he was right. I knew he was wrong. We hated one another. The afternoon turned black. Then suddenly my brother thumped me on the back and said, "Oh, come on. We can't go on all night." I was in the wrong. So he was in the right. Be safe, and God bless you.